Okay, hello everyone. This is the last part, the final part. So I think it will be a shorter video. Okay, on phase three, still on Philippines though. Right. So let's look at life after Marcos in Philippines. So what was like the track record? Okay, or the report card of Marcos's successors. Essentially, they had a mixed record. Okay, so this is good for essays, right? So we have both positive and negative, and we can have a balanced argument. Okay, so they have a mixed record in trying to restore liberal democracy and create growth. Okay, so the good thing was that yes, they went back. Okay, they were able to have a return to democracy. They kind of took back the practices of like phase one, but Philippine style lah. So this means that some of the limitations that we have observed in Philippines in phase one, like for example, the elitist nature, okay, of Philippine politics. Yeah, it was kind of retained, right? Continued. Okay, but no, okay, like it's okay, like at least democracy was restored. Okay, so we must be content, I guess. Okay, another good point, all right, was the military became depoliticized. All right, so they lost a lot of their political role. Okay, so they went back to like trying to defeat the communists and separatist movement and whatnot. Okay, and the threat from communism finally ended. Okay, however, okay, so there are like bad things. So the negative stuff, right, was that the economy remained dismal. Okay, so underperforming. There was still a lot of rampant corruption and cronyism, and there's still a massive rich-poor gap, okay, elite mass gap. The Southern Muslims, all right, so the separatist movement is still ongoing, okay, so not able to defeat them. So therefore, not sure whether we can say that, yes, the story, because remember in the previous video we had the Axel Revolution, right? So it was like great, it's spectacular, exhilarating, but did they live happily ever after? So was life like, okay, after they have kind of like defeated the bad guy, okay, and then yeah, the good guy won kind of thing like. So were they able to live happily ever after? Okay, so let's look at the first successor, which was Corazon Aquino herself. Okay, so she moved definitely quickly to restore civil liberties, wrote a new constitution. Okay, so something that I've mentioned briefly in the at the end of the last lecture as well. Okay, so she came up with a new constitution, a new old constitution, I guess. All right, so he reverted back to the constitution that Marcos kind of like cancelled. Okay, but she added some like new stuff, like for example saying that presidents can only stay for one term for 6 years. Okay, and then the vice president and vice president must be elected separately. Okay, so another layer of checks and balance. Okay, however, okay, she left the underlying structures of Filipino politics intact. So I think she's also smart enough or astute enough, okay, to know that it's too daunting a challenge, because I think even till now, all right, not a lot of Philippines leaders would be able to take on this massive nature of elitism, okay, and because there's too much entrenched interest already, I think it's like almost impossible to like address. Okay, well, more good things that she did, okay, in order to try and restore democracy, okay, was that she went back to a multi-party system. Okay, so therefore, no longer is political politics was not just dominated by the nationalist and the liberal parties. So there are a lot more other political parties that were being formed. But unfortunately, they are still the same old people. They're from the same clique. They went to the same schools. They are very rich. Their families know each other. They marry each other's sisters, whatever. Okay, so they're all connected. Okay, and they're all one big happy family. And it doesn't matter whether you're in one political party or the next. They're all the same. Okay, so and they all have all the power. Okay, so in a sense, yeah, a bit maximum government, I'm not sure. Okay, so we still see the persistence of political dynasties. Okay, so like for example, a lot of the future leaders, presidents of Philippine presidents, okay, they were actually sons and daughters of previous presidents. All right. Yeah, in a sense, these are some of the limitations that came up. Okay, so even though Corazon Aquino really tried to bring back, restore liberal democracy, okay, but there were still some limitations. Okay, like for example, okay, she continued this system of political patronage. All right, she allowed pro Marcos politicians, okay, to regain their political offices. Okay, she also endorsed Fidel Ramos. So the last time we heard of Ramos, right, was that he was one of the two people, military guy, all right, who defected against Marcos. Okay, so he was still he made sure that he's still around, and he became the next president after Corazon Aquino. Okay, Then and during the 1992 presidential elections, okay, political patronage was evident, right? So you can still see like a lot of like people who are connected to each other, right? So they're all like grandson lah, spouse lah, son lah, and all this. Okay, so they're all, that's why elitism, all right, is still very much prevalent, okay, even in this democratic structure. Okay, well, Aquino moved to depoliticize the military. Okay, so therefore, there was a military seminar, and the military publicly stated that they are going to limit their role to external defense and internal security. All right, so therefore, they're no longer going to like manage steel industries and then operate hotels and whatnot. All right, so that was a success. Okay, however, there seems to be cracks in Corazon Aquino's government, okay, where you increasingly see elite disunity. Okay, so you can see that there are a lot of people who are starting to like turn against Corazon Aquino. Okay, so a lot of like challenges. Okay, so therefore Enrile, for example, okay, he was the next person, the other guy, okay, who also defected against Marcos, okay, in 1986. So he opposed Aquino once she became president. So there are a lot of like Marcos instigated military coups against her. Okay, the communists continued to make a lot of trouble. Okay, and then Aquino tried to negotiate with the communists and tried to investigate into human rights abuses by the military. Okay, and then the military also not happy. Okay, so therefore, Aquino was astute enough, all right, to recognize that it's like a losing cause. Okay, so she slowed down her attempts to reform the political system. There's no point. Okay, too much opposition. Okay, it's too much of a challenge. All right, and because her main priority, right, was to manage a transition, all right, from maximum government to democratic government. Okay, so she sees herself as a transitional president. Okay, so therefore, because she wants to keep the peace, maintain stability, right? So she was forced to scale back on the reforms. Okay, so that it does not impact the very heart that she was working to build. Okay, which was a democratic system. Okay, so she would like allow funny things to happen. All right, political dynasties or even like nepotism to continue, as long as the democratic structures remained intact. Okay, so therefore these are some of the examples. Okay, unfortunately, one very a big wasted opportunity, okay, was that she did not carry out her land reforms, all right, and her promise to abolish trade monopolies. Now, this was a campaign promise. Remember that the fake election, the fraudulent 1986 fake elections, all right, where she took part in. Okay, then after that, Marcos apparently won, but she also won, so we have both parties winning, right? So during the elections, Aquino managed to win a lot of support because she made a lot of campaign promises, in such that she said that she will introduce land reforms, all right, and she would like do things lah, all right, to try and reduce, the elite mass gap. Okay, but after becoming president, okay, she realized that it's not possible for her, just her own lonesome self, all right, to carry out these land reforms without the support of everyone else. Okay, and because she also could not afford to offend the military, so she also ceased negotiating the military communists and allowed the military to continue their fight against them. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of Aquino government. Okay, so centrifugal spread. So yeah, there was still continued military campaigns against the NPA. Okay, and then constitutional processes overall is still okay. All right, democracy was restored, and some kind of innovation that's put in place to ensure that a Marcos cannot happen again. Right, but underlying elitist structure and political patronage system persisted. Okay, so therefore, she's just one person. She's not able to go against the system, obviously. Right, so therefore, the verdict will be like, is it like at the surface? It was very effective, but underlying there's still some limitations, kind of thing. Right, and then the criterion 3 was for over here you just need to talk about the land about this lah. You learn more about it in JC2. Okay, we move on to economic development. Okay, but then as I said just now, it was a wasted opportunity. She could have done a lot more. Okay, and so therefore for criterion 3, Aquino was also not very much able to fulfill it. Okay, so let's move on to contestant number 2. Okay, so after Aquino was Vidal Ramos himself, finally became president. Okay, he was a deputy chief of staff, remember? He was a military guy. Okay, but then he is now president. Okay, so what happened under Ramos? Okay, he restored the privileges of many of Marcos's cronies, simply because he really wanted to win their support and cooperation, okay, in order to get the government running, okay, because he could not afford to have a disunited government, okay, so therefore, yeah, because of this, for political expediency, okay, he had to work with Marcos's friends. Right, he also employed this practice of pork barreling. Sounds very interesting, right? Basically, it means distributing gains for political support. So like buying favor kind of thing, right? So therefore, you want to make sure that you pass certain bills in parliament. Then you have to go to various politicians and to buy their votes, all right, or to promise them certain favors, okay, in exchange for in return for their vote kind of thing, okay. So therefore, it was estimated that 40% of the state funds dedicated to infrastructure projects, okay, ended up with congressmen instead. Okay, so they didn't go to the actual project, but went to the pockets of various congressmen. Okay, and yeah, continue to have the political patronage system, okay, the elitist system, okay. Yeah, virtually all members of the Tenant had multiple relatives in elective and appointive government positions. So one person got elected, the whole family, the entire clan benefited, right? Well, Ramos tried to run for election, tried his luck, wanted to run for elections again, even though the new constitution that Corazon Aquino came about, right, said that no, okay, you're not allowed to run for a second term. So he tried his luck, stand for re-election, okay. Well, I don't know why he liked being the Philippines president so much. Okay, he wanted to be go for a second term, but luckily he was not able to do so, okay, because of opposition from Aquino and Cardinal Sin. Okay, so therefore this demonstrated again the resilience of democracy. Like again in the post-Marcos period. So like you see someone trying to challenge the system, right? But there will still be a backlash. Okay, so there'll be someone to like protect this system, this democratic system. So that's the resilience, right? So the Supreme Court also. Okay, so therefore the Supreme Court is also the guardian, okay, of this like democratic system. Okay, so therefore this shows that yeah, even though yes, it's not like a perfect, story, all right, nothing is perfect. It's not a fairy tale. Okay, however, overall we can still say that yes, there is we can still see a restoration of liberal democracy. It is still phase 3. Okay, and there was an increasing commitment amongst various stakeholders, okay, towards democracy. All right, so contestant number 3, okay, would be Joseph Estrada. All right, he was actually a Donald Trump before Donald Trump became president. Okay, long before that, in 1998. Okay, so Joseph Estrada was also a movie star. All right, then he campaigned. He was a very popular movie star because he's very suave. Then he acted as a hero and all that. Right, so therefore when he campaigned for president, a lot of people voted for him. Okay, and he was able to get away, all right, with exerting his influence or commenting rather vaguely on policy matters. So sounds like Donald Trump, right? Okay, never mind. Okay, so therefore, yes, we do have movie stars, okay, becoming president. However, Estrada was also not very effective. Okay, he was a bit like, yeah, it's not very memorable. Not very bad, like a villain. Okay, but not like spectacularly good as well. Okay, so one thing that he was known for, okay, was that he was also known for continuing with the tradition of pork barreling. Okay, so basically that was the main modus operandi for him. All right, when he wanted to get things done, all right, pass bills and whatnot. Okay, in government. Right, and yeah, so therefore these are some examples of this pork barreling. Okay, so the Ramos and Estrada governments, mostly for criteria 2 lah, that's what we know of. Okay, and then you just need to maybe think about it, all right? Ask yourself whether the Ramos and Estrada government were able to maintain political stability using constitutional processes and elections. All right, so let's try to like recap. Okay, so like go back to, because earlier on when I think when we first started with this case study, we looked at these 3 questions, right? When case studies went back to phase 3. Okay, so we have to look at like why there's this trend back to democratic practices, because of the failure of maximum government, right? So there was popular opposition, there was a backlash. Finally, maximum government was overthrown, all right, and this showed ultimately a preference for democratic processes. Okay, so we have a post-Marcos democracy, but were they really democratic practices? Overall, still remain, all right, still remain democratic. Okay, so these are the evidence. Okay, like for example, we do see regularly elected presidents. Okay, like 3 in swift succession. Okay, there were still regular elections, political parties continue and all that. However, the limitations, okay, plaguing the Philippines political system remained, right? Elitism, cronyism persisted. Okay, the impact on political stability would be like it's kind of mixed. All right, so this post Marcos democratic government, right? They were able to like defeat the communists but not the separatists. Generally it's yes. Okay, why? Because we don't have any like popular opposition, so none of them were overthrown. So not that bad until they were overthrown by the people. Okay, kind of like used to it. I think that's the norm already. All right, a very high level of tolerance. That's what I would say. Okay, so criterion 2 consider pass lah, huh? And then for criterion 3, there was also some impact okay, because of all the pork barreling on the cronyism and whatnot. Okay, so then even in phase 3, okay, they were still not like 100% effective in maintaining political stability. But then you cannot say that therefore democratic government was not good. Okay, it's still okay. So you must have like a nuanced view, all right, especially when you compare it to maximum government. Okay, so in comparison to maximum government, the democratic government will still be better or more effective at maintaining political stability. Okay, and we're at the end. All right, so we will wait for the next lecture, which is Malaysia.